All right, everybody. For those of you who are just trying to listen, this is take 2 on today's Facebook Live session, which is about de-stressing and the use of alcohol during the pandemic. If you can see us, please jump back on. I'm so sorry that we lost all the people who were watching a few minutes ago. We had technical issues, and hopefully you can now hear us. So let's go ahead and get started. If anybody wants to put comments in the section to let us know that you can hear us, that would be helpful. Otherwise, we're going to start again from the beginning and play catch up. So, all right, let's go ahead and start. And if the sound still isn't working, then we'll reschedule to another time when you all are available. So
maybe we can type in. Can you let us know if you can hear? Type if you can hear us.
All right, we're going to soldier on and see how this goes. So welcome. My name is Dr. Eileen West. I'm a general internist in Fairfax, and I have my colleague and friend Lynne Maloney here with me today. Lynne is the owner and operator of Breathe Body and Mind, a boutique yoga and fitness studio in Springfield, Virginia. She's been a fitness professional since 2005. She's ACE certified personal trainer since 2012. She's taught jazzercise for many years. She's has her 200-hour yoga teacher training. And she also is a functional fitness specialist. So she's a busy lady. She's got a lot going on, but she loves to make exercise fun and likes to work with clients both one-on-one and in small group settings in her studio in Springfield. And prior to that, she had a whole second career. She career. She had spent over 20 years in the newspaper industry, the last 17 of them at the Washington Post.
Yeah.
So welcome, Lynne. We're really glad that you're here with us.
Glad to be here.
All right. So is everybody hearing us okay? Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us this time.
Yeah.
If the audio is not working, it may be on our end, not yours. So let's see. We'd love to hear from somebody that this is actually working. So,
I don't have it.
All right. Good. Well, we're going to soldier on. So the topic of today's presentation has to do with alcohol in the pandemic and stress reduction overall. And the reason that we decided that this might be a relevant topic is, first of all, this is Mental Health Awareness Month, the month of April. And we have noticed in the healthcare field, and I'm sure many other people in many other professions have also noted that there's been a real uptake in alcohol consumption during the pandemic. And by some counts, a Rand Corporation study showed that particularly in women, alcohol increase for heavy drinking was up 41% since the start of the pandemic. And it does seem that women are actually being disproportionately impacted by some of this. The stress loads that people are taking. 22 million women have dropped out of the workforce since the start of the pandemic because they can't balance work and family effectively, or there have been major job changes or layoffs that have impacted their work. And so, there are lots of things that are making people stressed. And the pandemic really came on the heels of a series of other stressful events in our culture. So with the Black Lives Matter movement and the racial upheaval, and with the political goings on in the last 6-7 years. So it's been a really trying time for a lot of people. So what we want to do, I'd like to focus on some of the things that we know about alcohol intake and some of the risks and benefits associated with alcohol. And then the second part of the discussion, we'd like to take a look at some other stress reduction strategies. And we have some really concrete examples that hopefully will give you tidbits that you can take home today and use with chat to do with mindfulness and breathing and yoga and some other strategies that you might find useful. So, all right, without further ado, I am going to go ahead and do a short slide presentation, and then we can talk some more about the topic. So, on. All right. So we know that as alcohol consumption increases, there can be some problematic issues with excessive alcohol intake. How do we define excessive intake? First of all, alcohol is really, I'm going to actually go out of order here a little bit. We know that a certain amount of alcohol consumption is really not necessarily problematic for people. We also know that only 1 in 30 heavy drinkers actually have alcohol dependence. So the question then becomes, how much is an acceptable amount of alcohol when you're in these types of situations? The number of people who went from an occasional glass of wine with their friends to daily alcohol consumption over the last couple of years has been very high. That glass of wine turns into 2 and then turns into the bottle, and it just keeps going from there because it relaxes us. It makes us feel good. It makes us feel happy in the moment. It allows us to sort of forget the troubles of the day and transition out of a work environment or away from the things that are bothering us.
And during the pandemic, I know that, having that glass of wine waiting for me at the end of the day, there was something to look forward to, because there was nothing to look forward to during the pandemic. You couldn't travel, you couldn't go places. So right. I'm sure that had something to do with it as well.
Yeah, well, and when you look at alcohol and substance abuse during the pandemic, they did a survey, and actually as many as 25% of the people who had significant increases were doing it out of boredom.
Yeah.
I believe it. Bored, sitting at home all day. So, some were bored, others were not, because they had too much to do. So it was, overall. But so I want to focus in a little bit on alcohol intake overall. First of all, what are the effects of alcohol on the body? We know that alcohol impacts our systems in multiple ways. And this slide has a bunch on it, but I just wanted to kind of go through systematically. The brain is impacted by alcohol by changing communication pathways. It leads to a lot of mood flexibility, ups and downs. Our thinking can become clouded. Coordination in walking, etc., goes. And it also is really pretty well established that chronic alcohol use worsens depression, anxiety, and insomnia. And so you think that the glass of wine is helping you to relax, to fall off to sleep. But what actually happens is that as the alcohol is metabolized in your system, about 6 hours later, you get a boost of energy, which unfortunately comes in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So as far as the heart is concerned, there are problems with irregular heartbeat. A lot of people will develop elevated blood pressure. It can lead to stroke as the pressure continues to mount. And then people with really heavy, consistent alcohol intake actually develop cardiomyopathy in some circumstances, which is the heart muscle gets floppy and non-functional, and that leads to heart failure. So there are a lot of issues. And we're talking about pretty significant alcohol intake in most instances for that. As far as the liver goes, most people are aware that there's an association between liver and fatty changes of the liver. Alcoholic hepatitis is a reality where there's just an overwhelming inflammatory response of the liver. The liver is processing the alcohol but can't keep up. And some people have, an absence of the types of enzymes that are really necessary to clear those effectively. And those people get in trouble more quickly with liver disease. So fibrotic changes, fatty changes lead to fibrotic changes, lead ultimately to cirrhosis of the liver. And for a while, your body can compensate and change it around, but then you get to a point where it just can't anymore. So the pancreas is impacted. There's pancreatitis is a real problem with chronic alcohol intake. And then another one that is really important to be aware of is that cancer you can actually increase risk of cancer with alcohol intake. This is one of the biggest findings of the last few years looking at women and breast cancer risk. More than 2 or 3 alcoholic beverages in a week on an ongoing basis is associated with an increase in breast cancer risk that's comparable to the increase in risk from hormone replacement therapy long term.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's about a 1.4 relative risk. And, some would say that's not a huge risk, but if the risks are cumulative, then it can lead to problems.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, the immune system weakens with ongoing alcohol use. We're up to 24 hours after a heavy drinking or binge drinking episode, your immune system just doesn't fight off infection to the same extent. So you're more prone to alcohol changes, to infection with things like, sinus infections and pneumonia and that type of problem. So this has been a real issue for people who've decided that alcohol was a really good remedy to preventing getting COVID, because it doesn't actually stop you from getting COVID. If you apply 70% alcohol to your skin, you'll kill the germs that are on your skin. Unfortunately, if you ingest it, it doesn't kill the virus. So that was not a foolproof strategy. So, some other things, I think the messaging about limits for alcohol have been ratcheted back of late. We know that the formal definition still with the National Institutes of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, which make the guidelines that we all try to adhere to. We know that binge drinking is considered 4 or more drinks on one occasion for women, or 5 or more drinks on an occasion for men. And this is partly weight-based, but it has some other factors at play too. Estrogen levels in the system can impact the processing of the alcohol. So it's not just about weight and size. So consuming 8 or more drinks a week for women or 15 or more drinks a week for men is considered excessive. And any alcohol used by pregnant women or those under the minimum legal drinking age of 21 is considered problematic. So the Department of Health and Human Services recommends that adults limit their alcohol use to 2 drinks or fewer in a day for men and 1 drink or fewer a day for women. But we also are coming to understand that even a single drink a day might be too much. And it's particularly the example is the breast cancer risk reduction. Yeah. But we know that there are more and more forms of information coming out now that we're going to, it remains to be seen how much and to what impact and for how long are the problems arising. But in general now, it really is starting to seem that alcohol is going to impact your system, and it may be a long-term impact and it may be cumulative over many years, but alcohol consumption in and of itself just is problematic for a lot of people. So does that mean you can't go out and enjoy a glass of wine with your friends? No, but making it a daily habit is going to lead to consequences eventually. So, all right. Let's see. So one thing that we'd like to just mention is that there are some steps that you can take to adjust alcohol routine. Just type in, do you have any questions? To reset your routine, you might want to think about an earlier bedtime. Evenings can be triggers when people are tired or just relaxing or sitting on the couch watching TV and trying to just sort of distract themselves from the work of the day. heading to bed early can give you an opportunity to kind of skip that phase and then get a better restful night's sleep. And then when you wake up in the morning, you can use your restful state to do some of the other cool things that people can do to help reduce stress, like exercise or yoga. You can also think about substituting other beverages for alcohol, like sparkly fizzy drinks or a mocktail or herbal tea. Those are all good solutions. And then also you might just want to talk about this a little bit with your friends. A lot of people, their alcohol consumption is really impacted by the circle of friends that they travel in. If they spend a lot of time with people who are heavy drinkers, they're going to be a lot more inclined to consume a decent amount of alcohol. So maybe find a friend who likes to do other stuff, like go for a walk or go to exercise class.
There you go.
And, or go have coffee in the morning instead. So it's a good idea to think about saving the drinking for special times in the week. So, and then there are other, if you are at a point where you're concerned about significant alcohol intake, for yourself, or if it's getting in the way of you doing things that you like to do, then, certainly talk to your doctor about it, because there are the next level of formal treatments is, there are lots of different options, therapy and counseling and, use of medications to help suppress that drive for alcohol intake. There's some good apps that can help you track alcohol intake. One that I heard is supposed to be very good is called Cutback Coach. So there are options available. So, all right. So I want to go from that into some of the other stress reduction techniques that we can use. But before I do that, does anyone have questions they want to answer? If you do, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. I think that can give us a chance to answer the questions. So one question I've had people ask, they say, oh, well, I used to live in Europe and we drink, a bottle of wine every night with dinner. And, that's fine to an extent, and when you look at longevity studies, there is some data to support that the people who process alcohol well maybe are less impacted by it, and that, a glass of wine occasionally during the week isn't a problem because people are still living into their 90s and doing well.
Right.
So, but really it's the cumulative impact that we worry about. It's how much on a daily basis over what period of time. So, we talked a little bit about sleep. Mm-hmm. Let's go ahead and transition into some of the other.
Okay, but I will tell you that as a fitness professional, maybe I shouldn't be admitting this, but especially early on in the pandemic, I definitely was having at least a glass of wine every evening, probably two. And a friend told me about this book, and it's called The Alcohol Experiment. And the main reason, I don't know if that's appearing backwards to people or not, it's by someone named Annie Grace, and it's all about trying a 30-day alcohol-free challenge. And because my thing was more, wow, I'm gaining some weight here, and it's probably due to the fact that I'm drinking every single day, not excessively in my mind, but in reality, 2 drinks a day isn't necessarily something I needed to do. And I really found this book really, really helpful, and it was just a challenge. It was just like, okay, let me see if I can do this. And one of the things, it's written in a very conversational tone. And one of the best pieces of advice that I got from it was she was, talking about that little voice in your head saying, yeah, I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to have a glass of wine. And part of you is going, no, I'm not. No, I'm not going to do it. Yes, you are. Yeah, I want a glass of wine. I want a glass of wine. And thinking of that voice as, little kids begging you for, let's go to McDonald's, please, 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 or let me have that candy. And, you just saying as an adult, I don't care what you do. You can keep badgering me all day long. It's not going to happen. We're not going to McDonald's. And kind of doing that to yourself and saying, you can do this all day long, little voice inside my head saying, I want another drink or I want to have a drink, but just don't let it happen. And so instead I would, pour myself, like you suggested, sparkling water with some lemon in a wine glass. And I did land up losing the weight, and it just kind of helped me to re-examine how much I might have been drinking unnecessarily. And it really, it made a difference, and it was a good way to do it. So I would recommend that book for anyone who thinks, maybe I should cut back a little bit. So the other things that I'll kind of talk about is other ways that you can reduce any stress that you might be experiencing through breath and movement. And I will tell you, and somebody else mentions a book called Chatter about self-talk. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, that's great, Annie. So I will tell you right now that doing yoga and breathing and meditating is not going to immediately calm yourself and make yourself go, it will calm you, but it's not going to make you completely saying, okay, I don't want to have that glass of wine. Okay, I just did yoga, I don't want wine. It's just another way to help you deal with your stress and to relax. And so we'll touch upon several. What do I do? Just right there. Okay. A couple of different things that can help alleviate stress. And I shouldn't have even put in there without consuming alcohol, but in reality, that's what we're talking about here. But like I said, it's not magic. Okay. So breathing and breath work, and we'll talk about that, meditation, yoga, and stretching in general, because that can be very meditative and very relaxing if you do it in the right way, and just some other forms of exercise that I'll talk about. So talking about your breath is really one powerful tool. It has the ability to energize you and to relax you. And we're obviously going to talk more about the relaxing part right now. And I am not a breath work expert by any means. There are people who they really specialize in breath work, and they can show you all these different methods to energize yourself, to breathe in different ways, to activate different chakras and all this kind of stuff. But for me, I'm just going to talk about basically right now, starting with your nervous system and how your breath can impact your nervous system. So your nervous system is very complex. It's basically like your control center, and it's housed in your brain and your spinal cord, which is actually one of the reasons why in yoga, for instance, a lot of the poses that we do all start with the integrity of your spine. So your spine is very important in yoga, and that's one of the reasons why, because it has so much to do with your nervous system. But two of the components of your nervous system are your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. A lot of you probably know this information already, but it's helpful to have a little review. Your sympathetic nervous system is like your fight or flight. It's what kicks in when you're stressed out, when you're embarrassed, when you're scared, and it can help start your heart rate gets faster. You'll start perspiring. And then your parasympathetic nervous system is your rest and digest, kind of the complete opposite of your sympathetic nervous system. And that is, your heart rate starts slowing down. It happens when you're eating. You can eat better. It, helps with digestion, with elimination of waste. All of this is your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you breathe deep and you slow down, and we're going to talk about some of the deep breathing, it activates this nerve that's your longest nerve in your body, called the vagus nerve. And it runs all the way up and down your spine. Eileen knows all of this. And she's been thinking, you're self-correcting me in her mind. But it activates your vagus nerve. So it's diaphragmatic breathing that activates this nerve, which then turns on your parasympathetic nervous system. So most people breathe 10 to 14 times a minute, take breaths 10 to 14 times a minute. And a lot of people breathe through their chest. So when someone says, take a deep breath, they go, and they lift their shoulders up and they breathe through their chest, and then they exhale. And if you really want to try to tap into that parasympathetic nervous system, you want to do belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. So I would suggest that you just kind of sit up, kind of in a relaxed state though, put your hand on your abdomen, on your belly, and maybe close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And when you do, think about pressing your belly out. And then exhale and feel your belly just kind of squeezing in. And so one of the types of slow, deep breathing that can help to get you in the habit of doing that is called 4-count breath. And I'm just going to guide everyone. We'll just take about 2 or 3 rounds of this, and you'll notice, hopefully, how much more relaxed you feel after you do this. So just put your hand on your belly, close your eyes, and then when you inhale through your nose, press your belly out. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2. Feel your belly rise. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, feel your belly sink down. 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold that. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, belly sinks back down. 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. And now just kind of notice how you're feeling, and you can just kind of extend those nice deep breaths. And this can help with sleep as well. Sometimes if you're having trouble sleeping, try to even physically put your hand on your belly and just lie there and go through that. And it really does slow down your heart rate, slows down everything. It taps into that relaxation response. Another way you can do it is just inhale maybe to a count of 6 and exhale to a count of 8. So your exhale is longer than your inhale. And there's all different kinds of breath work. Another type of breath work is called Ujjayi breath that we use a lot in yoga, or it's known as victorious breath. And all that is when you take a breath in through your nose, you exhale and you kind of constrict your throat, and you just, as you exhale through your nose, you kind of make the sound of the ocean through your nose. And the thing that does is just kind of helps you stay focused on your breath if you're listening to your exhales in that kind of nice soothing way. So, and if anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to thank you, Eileen. Just tap you when I'm ready to. So one of the things that really comes into play with your breath work or with meditation is breath work. And there is a saying that says you should sit in meditation for 20 minutes every day unless you're too busy. Then you should sit for an hour. And that just cracks me up because I can really, really relate to that personally. And I can't tell you that I sit in meditation for an hour every day, but I do try to do it on a regular basis. And I'm getting ahead of myself. So let's just talk about some of the science-based benefits of meditation. Reduces stress, controls anxiety, promotes emotional health, enhances self-awareness. It lengthens your attention span. It could help with age-related memory loss. It improves, I don't know what that is, and I don't remember. I think it's circulation. And it can decrease your heart rate, your blood pressure. So all those benefits, right? Why don't people meditate more? Because it's hard. It takes time. So you can switch a lot of common questions and misconceptions about meditation is one of them, the first and the biggest one, and everyone can relate to this, is I'm not good at it. My mind wanders, which is so common. And, I think most of us have been in some kind of a meditation class or yoga class or something where you hear the person who's leading it say, if your mind wanders, just acknowledge this, accept the thought, acknowledge it, and let it go. And that's true. It's easier said than done. So as with anything, it takes practice. And what I have done, and when I get out of the habit of meditating and I need to start to get back into it, I set my alarm. I set the timer on my phone. We all have phones now. It's so easy to do. Set it for 3 minutes even. I mean, you should really try to strive to meditate maybe 20 minutes a day, but you know, a lot of people are like, oh, that's not happening for me.
Mhm.
So if that's the case, set it for 3 minutes, then maybe add 30 seconds the next time, and just focus on your breath. And then, you know, another common misconception or question is, I can't get comfortable doing that. I can't sit like this, you know, and you don't have to. You just want to be comfortable. You can lie down. You might fall asleep. So what? That's okay. Maybe you need that, you know, but you want to be comfortable when you meditate. And then, you know, some people will say, or I've heard, meditation is for religious or spiritual people, and that's not true at all. It's just to help you tap in to yourself and relax and tap into that parasympathetic nervous system. So there's a lot of different types of meditation. Mindfulness meditation is really the most basic that you would think about, which is, you know, just trying to sit with yourself and focus on the breathing exercise that we just did. Inhaling and exhaling. Another thing is mantra meditation. And that's a wonderful one because I think it really does help to keep you, you know, focused on just breathing and just being there. And that would be maybe inhaling, I am, exhaling, calm. I am at peace. I am, whatever it is. Another one is, inhale, peace, exhale, stress. And just say that over and over and over again in your head. Another type of meditation is visualization. Some people will focus on something, maybe a candle, maybe just a rock, a flower, and just kind of look at that and breathe. Different things work for different people. Walking meditation, taking a walk, absolutely in my mind is meditating. If, you know, just walking, looking at the beautiful day, inhaling the air, the fresh air. And then there are guided meditations, which you can do where that's generally something where somebody would read to you, and they, you know, close your eyes and now envision a beautiful forest, and you're walking through the forest. And again, that can just kind of help you just relax and tune in to your breath. So why yoga? To help reduce stress. And this little cartoon says yoga class. I thought you said pour a glass, which is pretty relevant to what we're talking about here. So yoga is a mind-body practice, and that combines physical poses. And as I mentioned, a lot of them have to do with the integrity of your spine. It involves controlled breathing and meditation or relaxation. Most every yoga class starts with what we call pranayama, which is the time to tune into yourself and tune into your breath. And depending upon the class, that can be anywhere from 3 minutes to 5 minutes or more. And you might be led into saying some kind of a mantra, but it's just an opportunity to tune in. You know, a lot of, there's a saying that says yoga is not a workout, it's a work in. And that's really has so much to do with what yoga is. It's going inward. Yeah. Many studies have shown the ability of yoga to reduce stress and anxiety. It can absolutely enhance your mood and your sense of well-being, as can a lot of exercise. You know, you leave a class that you like, whether it's a yoga class or any kind of class, and you feel on top of the world, usually, hopefully. So that's another reason why it's really beneficial for stress reduction. It improves your sense of well-being. Absolutely improves fitness, balance, flexibility, for sure. There's a lot of balance that we do in yoga, range of motion, and strength in some cases. Yoga can help to manage chronic diseases and symptoms. And, you know, it's your time. You don't have your phone there. You better not have your phone on texting people during the yoga class. I mean, it is your time to yourself, whether you do that in a studio with an instructor one-on-one or at home online. And there are so many options like that now. So there's a lot of benefits and a lot of reasons why yoga can help to reduce stress. And so some things to consider before trying yoga, you know, I mean, if you've never done yoga before, a lot of times you're thinking, is this yoga? Is this yoga? Am I yoga-ing now? That cracks me up, that little cartoon. So what you want to do for sure is find a reputable and certified yoga teacher or a studio that has certified yoga teachers. It's generally for just a 200-hour yoga certification. For me, it was 9 months, every other weekend, all weekend long for 9 months, to really, and because there's so much that goes into it. There's a lot of philosophy, yoga philosophy, which is really important to a lot of people. Everyone takes something different away, but there's a lot to learn as a yoga teacher about being safe and making sure people are practicing safely. They're not doing things to hurt their backs. So we have a lot of study on anatomy and the nervous system and all of that. So, and then there's other teachers who go on to earn another 300 hours and they become 500 hours certified yoga teachers. So it's important that your teacher knows what they're doing and that you feel comfortable with your teacher. And practice where you feel the most comfortable, where there are no distractions. So like I said, there's many online options these days. There's also, you just want to kind of get a sense. I would recommend you go and visit a studio. See if you can meet with someone at the studio and just kind of have a conversation and see if you're comfortable there. You never know. Everyone's different and everyone likes different things. There's a lot of hot yoga right now. A lot of studios, that's all they do is hot yoga. And that's great for some people. My studio is not a hot yoga studio for a variety of reasons, but some people are happy about that. Some people want hot yoga. Hot yoga generally tends to, we're talking over 100 degrees usually. And people like to sweat and they feel that they can get more flexible and more deep into their poses if it's hot. And in some cases that can be dangerous. You can, as I don't have to tell you, you can overstretch. Yeah. One huge thing that I would say is be patient with yourself if you decide to try yoga and let go of expectations. As I said before, yoga is more than just exercise. In my very first yoga class that I ever went to, at the end of class, so every class generally starts with the pranayama, breath work, tuning in, relaxing, tapping into your parasympathetic nervous system. And it ends with something we call shavasana, which is like a long nap or a short nap. You're lying on your mat for 3 to 5 minutes or more, sometimes a lot of times more. And I remember my very first class, I came with expectations, I guess. I had never done yoga before. And I remember lying there at the end of class thinking, okay, are we done? Is it over? Where is she going? What's going on? She's walking around. What's happening? When are we going to be done? It's hilarious now that I think about it, because a lot of people look forward. There's people who have T-shirts that say, I'm only here for the Shavasana. Mm-hmm. So you do want to let go of expectations. There's a lot, sometimes in some classes, there's balance that we do in a lot of yoga classes. And so you want to be patient with yourself and just know that, you practice is best. It's called a practice. That's why we're always getting better. And I would say that the types of yoga to consider for stress reduction, restorative yoga, some studios offer it. We do. And I like to call it slumber party yoga, because you're really lying on these big bolsters and you have blankets to roll under you and support you, or to put your feet up on blocks, and you lie there in different positions. I guess she was 84 at the time. My 84-year-old mom joined me for a restorative yoga class. She was afraid at first. And I said, no, believe me, you can sleep, you can do this. And it's very relaxing. And the instructor usually will read nice little poems or meditate, essays. And it's just intended to let gravity take over and let you relax. And at the same time, it kind of rejuvenates you. It's an interesting combination. And then gentle yoga, just anything that would be considered a gentle yoga class if you're new to yoga, and hatha yoga, which is the basic form of yoga, but some studios have actual classes called hatha yoga, and which is really breath to movement, and it can be pretty gentle and relaxing. So I'm going to show you some simple yoga poses and stretches that you can try at home. And some of these you will already know. But, just neck and shoulder stretches. We spend so much time like this on our phones or in front of our computer. So
more than ever now.
Yes, more than ever now. So it's really helpful. And maybe we can, I still have a little bit more on the screen, but we can flip back to that. How do we get back to a bigger?
Just us.
Yeah.
Okay. Get back to that.
So just some simple stretches that you can do are taking a breath in and squeezing your shoulders up and back, and then exhaling and bringing your shoulders down. So inhale, squeeze your shoulders up and back, and exhale and press them down. And you can do that a few times. Another really good exercise is just to kind of squeeze your shoulder blades a little bit, press them down, nothing crazy. You don't have to go crazy, but kind of squeeze them back a little bit, press them down, and then just gently drop your chin. And you should feel a really good stretch in the top of your shoulders and your neck. And then maybe just turn your chin very gently from side to side. So these are the kinds of things that you can stop and do when you're seated at your desk. And you can just, look up and down, side to side, just a lot of good neck stretches. One thing that I would recommend is be careful about looking up too high. We have a lot of nerve endings in our neck. And so you want to go easy, especially as we get older, on stretching those out and crunching those a lot. So another thing that I want to show you is I'm going to get down on my mat and just show you something that is called, and again, a lot of you are probably familiar with this, but it's called a cat-cow. And it's, there you go, perfect.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's a great way to, okay, there we go, to kind of get your spinal fluid moving, your synovial fluid, which lubricates all the cartilage up and down your spine. So you're in an all fours position with your hands right underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips, your fingers are wide, and you're kind of pressing down into the mat. And all you're going to do is take a nice deep breath in. And when you exhale, you're going to round your back, tuck your chin, really pull your belly button to your spine. And then inhale, let your low back sink and your chest come high. So you're going to exhale and round, round, round. You feel a stretch in your low back and in your shoulders. Inhale, low back sinks, sternum comes high, easy on the neck again. So doing that with your breath. So you don't want to go any faster than your breath. You just want your breath to guide you. Another stretch that I'm going to show you really quickly, and everyone knows probably how to stretch their hamstrings, but the thing that this stretch will show you is how important it is to use your breath to help guide you and to keep your spine, keep the integrity of your spine. So if you sit up nice and tall, you can put your arms above your head if you want to, but to make it simple and easy, I'm not going to do that. Your toes are kind of curled towards your knees. Pull your navel in. And, just sit up tall. So your ears are kind of above your shoulders. Take a nice deep breath. So when you breathe in, you really want to think about pulling up through your pelvis, getting nice and tall through the crown of your head. And then exhale and come forward a little bit. And then inhale, lengthen through the crown of your head. Pretend there's a string coming out of the top of your head. Lengthen, and then exhale a little bit deeper. So you can do this till the cows come home. I'm just rounding over, which a lot of people do, right? It's totally, if anyone's trying this at home, you try doing this and you're going to get your nose practically to your knees. But if you do it, keeping the integrity of your spine and you're letting your breath guide you, I feel more of a stretch right now in this position than I did all the way down there. And you just very slowly, and at the same time, what's going on here is that you're breathing nice and deeply. So you're tapping into that sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system. And another thing that you can do a hamstring stretch in the same way by sitting in a chair. Just for a second. So I'm sitting in a high chair, so it's going to be challenging for me to do this, but bring the screen down. All you need to do is extend one leg and put your heel on the ground, and sit up nice and tall. And once again, keeping your shoulders down and back. Exhale. And every time you exhale, you just sink a little bit deeper. I'm going to roll right off the chair. So that's hopefully, I mean, there's so many, we could be here for 3 hours if I, but a lot of those, so many. So a lot of those kinds of things we'll do in gentle yoga classes. I mean, we have a class at our studio called Yoga Stretch, and all it is easy stretching like that. But you feel so good when you're done. So,
and it seems like with each passing of each decade, the stretching requirements increase.
Yes, and they do. And the thing too, that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, because when you stretch, the activities of daily living, exercising, walking, just being, sitting, which a lot of us do a lot. Like I'm telling you this, you already know this, but it contracts your muscles. It constricts your muscles. They get smaller, and so by stretching, you really can't stretch your muscles, but you're getting them back to their original factory settings, as it were. So, and that's important to be able to do that.
I love when you walk into a yoga class and you see like a bunch of high school football players there.
I know, and they have a very hard time with it because
it's not easy.
Exactly.
It's sort of the opposite use of many of the muscles.
Yes.
The training that they're doing is so good for them.
It is so good.
My daughter's soccer team does yoga.
Really?
Yeah.
How do we get back to this?
All right.
Whoops, no, I have one more.
One
more screen.
All right.
There we go. So, the only other thing that I wanted to say is that there's additional ways to reduce stress and anxiety by moving your body. Walking, like I mentioned, dancing. I used to be a jazzercise instructor. I still do jazzercise regularly because it makes me happy. Kickboxing is great, to get to relieve that stress. The bottom line is you want to do something that makes you happy, that you look forward to doing. And you might not think that on the very first class or your very first try, but give it a little bit of time. And exercise in general can do all these things: lower blood pressure, increase your energy. Who doesn't want more energy? Improves your sleep. I said increases energy twice there. Helps to maintain your weight, improves your confidence, social interaction, which is huge. And like Eileen said, it's a way to interact maybe without alcohol. So hopefully, there
was a study that was published recently that showed that racket sports are among the best contributors to long-term healthy lifestyle.
There you go.
And it's not just because they're all different types of movement. You're really moving your whole body.
Right.
And it's coming in bursts of activity. And sometimes when it's less hectic.
So it's like hit in that way.
But you might play tennis for an hour and a half and really not
feel like you exercise
so quickly, because there's also the social component.
Yes, pickleball is huge now.
Number one growing sport in
I'm
America.
not surprised. People love that. They just love it, and they're getting exercise. It's great. So hopefully some of that was helpful. If anyone has any questions at all, please, let us know.
Yeah. Here, and Lynn, I'm going to put up your contact information just in case anybody wants to reach out directly to you.
Thank you.
Here's a question. Let's see. All right. We have Carolina would like to know if yoga can help with back pain.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely it can. In fact, I don't know where you live, but we have a class called Yoga for Backs and Bones. Mm-hmm. So it's specifically for back pain. And there's a lot of different poses that can help with back pain. Yes.
And that stretching is because a lot of times the initial tightness of the lower back, it comes from tightness in the hamstrings.
Exactly.
So when you stretch out the hamstring, the back starts to
exactly too. And so many people have back pain, especially now, because people are sitting more, and that's exactly right.
Right. And posture, by hour 3 or 4, your posture.
Exactly. And I have to
at the beginning
make
of the day.
myself do this. Yeah. And Carolina, I would say to start with, a class that's gentle. You really want to make sure that if you've never done yoga, you really want to start with a class that's gentle. The first time I went to a class, there was sometimes they use a lot of Sanskrit terminology, and I was looking around going, what does that mean? What does that mean? So it's really kind of good if you can find some kind of a beginner's class or at least a gentle class and talk to the instructor before class and say, I've never done this before, so.
There's so many different modifications. I love it.
Exactly.
You do chair yoga.
Yes.
Sometimes for older people
Yes.
with mobility issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I hadn't heard about gentle yoga specifically, but I'm interested. I'm happy to hear you talk about what the specific breakdowns
it's just
are.
It's just basically there's all kinds. There's vinyasa, which is not something I would recommend for a beginner unless they are really active already and do a lot of exercising. Vinyasa is more of a workout, actually. It's also a work-in, but it's more of a workout because it's more fast-paced. I would try a hatha yoga class before I would try a vinyasa class if I was brand new to yoga. And if they have gentle yoga, that's what I would definitely go for. Or something like yoga for backs, something along those lines. Any other questions? Just let us know. And
I'm going to incorporate your desk yoga tomorrow.
Yeah, there's so much more. There's
really
so
terrific.
much more. I mean, one of the things that I would say is really work on opening up. We spend so much time like this. So if you really try to just open and then bring your arms up and then bring them down, just really opening through the shoulders and the chest, it's really can be beneficial. And I myself need to do more of it. Okay.
Well, thank you so much. All very, very interesting.
Thank you.
All helpful. And I hope that you all have found this informative and beneficial. And
thanks for sticking with us.
Yes.
For those of you
sorry
who
about the
are
technical
still there
difficulties
with the
at the
sound.
beginning of the first session. So I was really happy to see people jump back on. Thank you. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, we'll see you again next time. And thanks for joining in. Take care.
Bye-bye.